at the 2016 Canadian Science Policy Conference. And joining me today is Dr. Bruce McManus, who's the CEO of the Centre of Excellence for the Prevention of Organ Failure, or the PROOF Centre. And thank you so much for joining us, Dr. McManus.
It's a pleasure to be here. I'm looking forward to a good meeting.
Excellent.
And looking forward to speaking with you.
Likewise. So to start off, why don't you tell us a little bit about the good work you're doing at the PROOF Centre? What makes it unique and what makes it important?
The PROOF Centre is an engine for the development of what we call biosignatures. And we've been at this in a serious way since 2004. And beyond being funded by organizations like Genome Canada, Genome British Columbia, Genome Quebec, we were funded as an NCE, Center of Excellence for Commercialization and Research, a CSER, in 2008 in the first cohort. And one of the reasons I think we were funded is because we are unique in the mission of developing biosignatures that are based upon a transomic approach, primarily not considering DNA other than the epigenome, but molecular elements that can be drawn into a signature that include primarily those that have been harvested from the blood, like plasma proteome, the plasma or serum metabolome, the whole blood transcriptome, including coding and non-coding RNAs, as well as the epigenome. Then using a data-driven computational biology, systems biology approach to reduce tens of thousands of these elements, I would call them better than molecules, into a signature usually that's less than 20, but that is evaluated on the basis of its ability to discriminate one patient phenotype from another along the life cycle of organ failure. And so we have a number of programs related to acute and chronic heart failure, others related to COPD, others related to vaccine responses in asthma, others related to skeletal muscle degeneration in limb-girdle muscular dystrophy, as well as those related to rate of progression in renal failure in collaboration with public and private sector partners. The ultimate objective is, when looking at risk, presence, progression, or response to therapy for any of those conditions, and very specific questions, moments in the life cycle where there might be an opportunity to make a difference in the way care is delivered by providing a signature that could be developed as a blood test in a clinical laboratory. That would bring great value if the metrics of performance of that signature were better than anything else we have. And it could be made very inexpensive, and therefore ultimately in evaluation by health economics, we can show that it's cost effective and also brings improved quality of life for patients in a variety of ways. The other destination of those signatures is into the early guidance of drug development pipelines. So if you have these signatures taken, again, primarily from blood, but not solely, then you might be able to get an indication of whether a drug is working or not in phase 1, phase 2, and whether there, in fact, whether in some instances, whether there's evidence of toxicity early on. We also, the final thing I might say is that we not only look at human signatures, but we also use animal models to do some forward and reverse translation of the signatures when we have a model that seems to be phenotypically reasonably close to what the human being experiences. And so the goal of the Proof Center is to work with all like-minded partners in and out of Canada, in and out of British Columbia, who want to improve the lives of patients, either in the immediate sense by guidance in the clinical laboratory or in the more prolonged context of developing better therapeutics. So we're a diverse group of people, computational scientists, including informaticians, statisticians, clinical trialists, and systems biologists, but also classical life scientists and clinical scientists and industry leaders in terms of technology platforms, either upstream or in the clinical laboratory, as well as health economists, whom I mentioned.
Ah, great. Well,
so that's what we do. That's the whole story.
It almost sounds like what you're trying to do is a bit of a microcosm of what health research in general is trying to do by doing a better job of measuring interventions or innovation support programs, but throughout the entire life cycle of the process.
Well, it is about bringing innovation through these molecular signatures to healthcare. So bringing the best of integrated sciences to do this, and to be part of like you say, a bigger picture of needs, where anything we can do to get better. It's sort of like we started out with a fingerprint, and then we have retinal scans, and we now are very much more precise in knowing who's who, and the same is true. This is exactly what we're trying to do in Proof Center, and we're a not-for-profit organization that works to develop these tools with resources from a variety of sources, but the goal here is to help other organizations and people more so than it is an innovation agenda for us. Yeah.
Great. So shifting gears just a little bit, I wonder if you can talk about what do you think are some of the biggest challenges in terms of promoting and empowering young researchers, and what can we do to address those challenges?
Well, that's as you know, a very both hot topic and a very multidimensional topic in 2016 and beyond. But I tend to take a more optimistic view of where we are than you often hear. The important thing for young folks is to get a chance to be fully and properly educated and trained and mentored. And the destination after you prepare somebody in your particular area of research, the destination of that trainee, let's say they go all the way through their PhD, or they've done a PhD and they're doing a postdoctoral fellowship, is the role and responsibility, in my view, of the laboratory or program leader is to make sure that you've mentored people into understanding, first of all, that there is a plethora of opportunity out there, not just being a faculty member in your training discipline, but also in serving in roles in funding organizations, in advisement to government, in roles in private sector and industry, and in fact, in the theme of this meeting, getting additional experience and education to, even though you have a very solid scientific educational base, to get additional training and experience in the relationship between science and society. And so the opportunities between, we now know that we are actually systems within systems within systems within systems. So you have molecular, organ-based, whole human-based, social systems, and then you have the health systems and the economic systems that embrace them. And we have the tools now to look with analytics, to look across those systems in new ways and look at the relationship between science and the destination of, in fact, humanity. So we can look at how many fish there are going to be in the sea in 2030 or 2050. We can make projections about a popular topic, climate change. We can link science to really critical issues for the global society, and there's no end of opportunities, either locally or globally, to be a player in that agenda, to bring the critical thinking of science to bear in a context of society. So there's just a limitless number of exit doors from your PhD or your postdoctoral fellowship, and the key thing is to avail oneself of, to be aware of those many options, that there's not just a single option after you finish. Because if you look at your training as only preparing you for one destination, your chances of failure are really high. And any of us have been like a zigzag line in our careers, have found options and opportunities in strange places, and that eventually becomes part of the fabric of who you are as a professional. So I think in terms of training, what I try to do is individualize it and to work in a partnership with each trainee to see where they seem to have the best fit from a skills and ethos point of view, and then remember always that the most important thing is to be adaptable, that you're going to change, your career is going to change in 5 years and 10 years, and keep that flexibility in your thinking about where you're going, and you'll end up with opportunities that are limitless.
Fantastic. Well, I really appreciate you sharing and joining us today. So it was an absolute pleasure meeting with you, Dr. McManus, and hope you have a fantastic CSPC 2016.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me here, Connor.
It's our pleasure.